Hello everyone, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. I'm going to be peering off here. I'm doing videos. It's after 8, but I am in a tornado warning. So I keep looking off at the TV just to make sure I don't have to run. There was a tornado about an hour south of me. So yeah. Peoria. Okay. So this is I just did something from this channel. It was about Rockefeller. And this is why this gold heist changed security forever. Let's get into the video.
Hey, Thoughty2 here. Humans have always been enchanted by gold. We don it, devour it, drink it, serenade it, even defecate atop it. And when the chips are down, we kill for it. From King Midas to the California gold rush, when it comes to this most precious of precious metals, we simply lose our tiny little minds. Given this centuries-old love of all things AU, it's no wonder that gold has remained a target of the criminally inclined. And there was no heist bigger than that of the Brinkmat bullion raid, in which an armed gang burst into a warehouse near Heathrow Airport and made off with £26 million worth of pure gold.
Damn.
The heist, hailed as the crime of the century, was, at the time, the largest in British history. But the theft itself was merely...
It was at the time, meaning there's been a bigger one? Or does it just mean that it's the largest one? It was the largest one worldwide, but now it's the largest one. I don't know. Let me hit the button.
The start of the story, because after stealing 3 tons of solid gold, these newly minted millionaires had to figure out just what the hell they were going to do with it. Surfshark VPN.
Yeah, what do you do with gold bars after you've taken them? Do you have to have something special to melt them down? Clearly, I don't know anything about gold. I don't know.
VPN keeps you safe and private by covering up everything you do online. It's in 100 countries, so anywhere you'll... For example, access my online banking safely, even on business data. Quite simply, Surfshark VPN is an essential...
Alright, now we're into the video. Thanks, Surfshark.
The Brinkmat raid took place at 6:30 AM on the 26th of November, 1983. Say what you like about armed robbers, but they do get to work early. The gang was led by 2 career criminals, Brian the Colonel Robinson and Mad Mickey McAvoy, one of whom was said to be the brains of the operation and the other a certified hardass. I'll leave you to work out which was which. There was also an inside man, security guard Anthony Black. He was married to Brian Robinson's sister, and he happily spilled his guts to his criminal in-law about the large sums of money that were held at the Brinkmat warehouse where he worked. As far as heists go, this one was absurdly simple. During his rounds, Black casually unlocked a side door, granting access to the seemingly secure warehouse for the rest of his crew. Then 6 balaclava-clad bandits burst in, quickly subduing the security guards who, far from ready to defend against the incursion, were enjoying a nice hot cup of tea and a gossip. Next on the to-do list was gaining access to the vault. Only select guards knew the codes, and Black wasn't one of them. So the gang politely asked one of the ones who did if he wouldn't mind handing them over. When that didn't work, they tried the more direct route of putting a knife to his throat, pouring petrol over his privates, and suggestively lighting a match. But before the poor man had a chance to cough up the codes, one of the crew spotted something strange. Sitting right in the middle of the warehouse were several large boxes, each concealing 6,800 solid gold ingots. The Brinkmat robbers had hoped to steal around £1 million worth of foreign currency from the vault. Instead, they found 26 times that just sitting there. It was the heist equivalent of winning the lottery, except when people win the lottery, they aren't usually holding a shotgun and threatening to burn someone's cock off. Also, when you win the lottery, you get one of those really big novelty checks, which must be an absolute nightmare to pay into the bank. But a damn sight easier than transporting 3 tons of gold. The crew had anticipated a swift smash and grab operation. What they hadn't planned on is that almost 2 hours later, they'd still be loading the loot into the van with a forklift truck. So laden with loot was the getaway vehicle that they struggled to get away at all, leaving the scene at a pace surpassed by my gran on a midnight trip to the toilet. They did manage to escape before the alarm was raised, but soon enough, the chase was afoot. The London Police Department dedicated to organised crime is known as the Flying Squad, better known by its Cockney rhyming slang, the Sweeney. Sweeney Todd, Flying Squad. They had a reputation for being every bit as tough as the crims they pursued, so it wasn't long before they started putting those gold bar bandits behind bars of a different variety. Anthony Black, the inside man, was the first to be brought in as soon as the cops realised he was the brother-in-law of a known criminal. He didn't really think that one through, did he? Black folded under questioning and confessed to his part in the crime. He also coughed up the names of the ringleaders, Brian Robinson and Mickey McAvoy, who were both arrested only 10 days after the raid. Not that either had been lying low in the interim, both immediately swapped their humble family homes for significantly swankier properties purchased in cash. And just in case any doubt remained, McAvoy further confirmed his culpability by trying to punch Anthony Black in the face during a police lineup. A year later, Robinson and McAvoy were sentenced to 25 years each, with Black getting 6 years. Unlike Black, McAvoy and Robinson remained silent. They never gave up their accomplices, and the other 4 men involved still haven't been caught to this day. Wow. With the ringleaders safely in prison, you might think it would have been easy to track the stolen loot. After all, how the hell do you even begin to launder 3 tons of a very shiny metal? Step forward, John Palmer, the man the press would later christen the real-life Goldfinger, and with a very good reason. Despite growing up in extreme poverty in Birmingham, Palmer had a knack for making money. He left school at a young age and started selling scrap metal and second-hand cars before moving into jewellery and gold. By the time of the Brinks-Mat robbery in 1983, Palmer was living in a Georgian mansion near the historic town of Bath, where he had his own smelter, a mini furnace for melting metal. As a well-known criminal who owned a gold melting machine, he was the perfect person to liquidate the gang's assets. Literally. Just 2 days after the robbery, Palmer's affluent neighbours alerted the police about his frantic backyard smelting. Unsurprisingly, they figured it might have something to do with that 3 tons of stolen gold making news headlines. The police turned up, but for reasons that have been lost to history, they decided not to take things any further. That left Palmer free to melt down huge quantities of gold, which he mixed with copper to disguise its origins. He then sold it on to unsuspecting companies, including one called Johnson Maffei, the very same company that owned the gold in the first place. I mean, stealing someone's gold is one thing, but selling it back to them at an inflated price after you've decreased the quality? That's just criminal. In total, £13 million worth of gold profit went through the accounts of Palmer's personal company, which he wasn't at all shy about spending. However ineffective the police might have been previously, they eventually began to suspect Palmer's involvement and raided his mansion in 1985. The trouble was, by that point, it was too late. He'd taken his family to Tenerife for a short holiday that ended up lasting 2 years. Funny that. He did eventually return to Blighty in 1987 and was promptly put on trial for his part in disposing of the gold, but it seemed he'd spent the intervening years polishing up his case, because, despite admitting to melting and selling the gold, he was cleared of all charges. His defense was simple. He claimed he never knew the gold was stolen. That might sound hard to believe, but apparently the jury saw things differently. Palmer left the courtroom that day blowing them kisses before hopping on a plane straight back to Tenerife, where he'd set up a dodgy timeshare business. At this point, Palmer wasn't the only one of the extended criminal family connected to the Brinksmat robbery that the police were pursuing. They were also after lifelong gangster Kenneth Noy, an expert fence who had a reputation for being able to shift all kinds of ill-gotten gains. Like Palmer, Noy was thought to have played a pivotal part in melting down the Brinksmat gold and laundering the money which its sales brought in. As a prime suspect, Noy was placed under close police surveillance, which is how one night an undercover officer came to be hiding, camouflaged, in his back garden. Apparently, Noy was a proud horticulturist, because on finding the police officer camped out in his chrysanthemums, he stabbed him to death. At the subsequent trial, Noy pulled off an even more unlikely victory than John Palmer, claiming he'd stabbed the police officer 10 times in the chest in self-defense. He was found not guilty. Thankfully, Noy faced court again less than a year later when police found 11 solid gold bars in his house. Even the apparently easily led jurors of 1980s England couldn't ignore that glaring evidence. Noy was fined £500,000 and given 15 years in prison. He was released in 1994, but 2 years later, he murdered someone else. It seems old habits quite literally died hard. This time, he killed a motorist in a road rage incident, then fled the country the following day and went on the run for 4 years. You may be wondering how a convicted criminal wanted for murder managed to slip away so easily. Well, I assume he donned one of those.
He had done one of the hell is that? That was creepy.
Well, I assume he donned one of those pairs of glasses with a false nose and mustache attached. But sadly, no. Like Ringo Starr from the Beatles, Noy had a little help from his friends. Only with less drumming and more stabbing. In this case, Noy's friend was none other than old Goldfinger himself, John Palmer. Perhaps there's honour amongst thieves after all. Palmer had Noy flown out of the UK in his private helicopter, which took him to Palmer's private golf course in France. From there, Noy took Palmer's Learjet to Tenerife, where authorities lost track of him altogether. Noy is believed to have orchestrated at least 3 mob murders whilst on the run, either to evade law enforcement or to avenge those he believed have wronged him. He was eventually arrested in Spain and extradited back to the UK, where he was sentenced to life in prison. But hang on a second, did I just say that John Palmer owned a helicopter, and a golf course, and a Learjet? Yes, I did. Because whilst Kenny Noy had spent years locked up, Palmer had spent that time cleaning up, making an absolute fortune in a scam of huge proportions. You see, his holiday apartment timeshare business was nothing but a huge con. It grew to be an empire, employing hundreds of people, and made Palmer a personal fortune of over £300 million, meaning that at one point he was almost as rich as the actual Queen of England. Palmer's vast wealth was all built on lies, and up to 20,000 customers were tricked into paying for apartments that didn't exist. If they refused to pay, Palmer's hired thugs convinced them to change their minds. Not only that, but Palmer was caught on camera by legendary British investigative journalist Roger Cook, offering to launder £60 million worth of drug money and boasting about how he could get guns from the Russian mafia. Justice, though long overdue, eventually caught up with Palmer, who, like Noy, was extradited back to the UK. He was put on trial, found guilty, and sentenced to 8 years for fraud. He was released after 4 years to continue his life of crime until 2015, when he was shot dead outside his mansion in the English countryside. No one has been convicted of his murder. The brutal end to Palmer's life is typical of many of those associated with the Brinksmat heist, which superstitious types have suggested may be cursed. In total, 20 people involved in the heist have been murdered over the years. Many others have languished in prison. Original robbers Robinson and McAvoy got long sentences and both died penniless, their shares of the stash having evaporated by the time they were released. As for the gold itself, the vast majority was never recovered, and its whereabouts remain the subject of fevered speculation, even today. So much stolen gold was processed by the thieves that, according to some estimates, almost everyone who bought gold jewellery in the UK after 1984 is wearing at least some Brinks matte gold. Other tales claim the laundered money has been invested in everything from international drug trafficking to the large-scale redevelopment of the Docklands area in London. With so many having taken their secrets to early graves, it seems likely we'll never know the whole truth, and the mystery of the Brinks matte robbery, like the gold that was taken that day, will continue to fascinate and tantalise us for years to come. Thanks for watching.
So that was interesting. Oh, well, there's a storm passing me, and fortunately there's another one coming up from Iowa. I'm not getting out of this for a while, I guess. Oh. What do you think? What do you think? Think they should like and subscribe? We could die tonight, right? Say it. Say like and subscribe. Yeah, I mean, 2 licks. Okay. All right. Like and subscribe. That was good. I'm going to check out more stuff from this channel. But I don't know if I'm going to do it tonight. I'm tired. I worked 11 hours. So, I want to relax now. None of that matters to you. I'm going to end it here, though. And have a good day. Have a good night.